Hello, welcome to New York Film Festival. My name is Violeta Bava. I'm program advisor of the festival, and I'm thrilled to welcome Kiro Russo, writer and director of El Gran Movimiento. Thank you, Kiro, and thank you all for joining us for the Q&A of the film. Before we start, I would like to congratulate you, Kiro, for the special jury award received in Venice Horizonte competition, and for the recognition you have also received in Rome very recently. It's been a while since Bolivia has been present this way in the festival scene, and we are very, very happy you have shared the film with us, and that such a political and cinematic piece can be part of Currents this year. Kiro, in your first feature film, Dark Skull, which premiered in Locarno in 2017, and which was part of Art of the Real, you show us the working class and the human conditions inside the mind. In El Gran Movimiento, here you present some characters, Elder and others, that we have seen in your previous film. They are in La Paz now, capital of Bolivia, and from the very beginning, we see them in a demonstration fighting for their working conditions after having walked 7 days. The working class and its problems, the working and human condition, and how this affects their bodies seem to be a central element in your cinematography. Can you tell us about it, please?
Hello. Well, first of all, I want to say hello to you, Violeta. Thank you very much to the New York Film Festival. I want to thank the selection committee, to Dennis, and I'm really, really happy to share with you this new film that I made, El Gran Movimiento. It was a very long journey, very tough film to do, and that's great. Sad that I'm not there with you physically, but I'm happy that the film's you already saw it. Well, in fact, what happened to my work is that in the beginning when I started, because now I went to the Wanuni Teen Mines in 2009, and obviously I was not thinking very much about that I was going to be working there so long, no? But the things like started to catch me a lot there, because I really had a very big bond, a friendship, a very huge friendship with many miners and people from the mines, and for me was something that was, it's trapping me. It's still today. Now I'm writing a new project, and it's related also to the mines again. I think maybe it's going to be the last work that I'm going to do there, but it's something that happened that you know, the labor conditions that I saw were so strong, and when I did my first short film there, I was really affected by the fact of getting inside the mine and understanding this environments and the roughness of the work. It's too much. It's something that you really don't understand when you're not there, no? And for me, that was very heavy stuff. That's what I made, like my first feature, Dark Skull, and to my second feature at the beginning, I thought that I was not going to do it. You know, I was writing a very much more, let's say, fictional, more genre film that had some elements that still on film, but in a moment everything changed so much, because what happened is that in 2018 I started the process of writing in 2016, but in 2018 suddenly one day I was around the center of La Paz, my city, and I suddenly saw the guys, Julio Cesar, Israel, and some others that I met, that they didn't told me that they were going to come walking to the city, you know? And I saw them. There were a lot of guys there, like, I don't know, 400 men and women, the guys with their wives, and I saw them there very tired, sleeping on the street, and it was strong for me to look at. I mean, to this encounter was very strong, and I decided to shoot the scenes. Some of them are now in the film, but I didn't knew at the time that what was going to happen with that, you know? But for me, it was very important to portray that situation specifically. And in the end, from that point, the movie started to change so much until it went to be the story of the illness of Elder. And the illness came because at the same year, like some months after, another friend, a very close friend from the mines, but he actually is a miner, because the point is that this group of guys, they are not miners. No? These are sons of miners that they are not allowed to work anymore, and they don't have any opportunity. And for me, that's very tough to see and understand, no? Because they come from generations of miners, and suddenly they don't have the opportunity, and they get very lost, you know. And the other situation that happened is that this other friend that I have, he used to be a driller, which is like the most dangerous but well paid job in the mine. And at around 39, 40, he was retired because he is ill of a very bad illness that the miners have, that's called silicosis. And he was very affected, no? Because suddenly, after this roughness of his life, he was like sitting in his house, and I don't know, all these elements ended driving me to this plot, this story. You know?
And now that you mentioned the plot, I have two different questions. One has to do with the illness and the different words that come together. On one hand, we have the traditional medicine, the approach, and that he goes and have to a doctor, which inform us about we don't believe in those things anymore, like we don't believe in certain things that I'm curious. So it's close, that those beliefs seem to be very close. And on the other hand, you present Max, a very interesting character, a healer that comes with another system of beliefs, not only about the illness, but about many other things. And in Bolivia and in La Paz seem to coexist these different words. Can you tell us about this, and if the idea in the movie was to put together or to question this?
Well, the first idea that I had for this movie was related to Max. I know him since 2004, and he's a very strange character. In fact, he's like a kind of hermit that wants to be outside of the system. He lives like around the city. He knows very well the city, and he's a very like he also thinks that he's a wizard, in fact, and this is the relation that I developed with him since so long years. One of the things that I used to do is to go around the city, you know, and he was like revealing me some spaces, some new places. Like he had this idea of knowing the space beyond the others from a different perspective, you can say. And for me, that was very amazing. And at that time, I read, I mean, like many years after, but when I decided to do the film, I was reading some tales from Allan Poe, and I read this Man of the Crowd story that for me remembered very much to Max, no? But the story of the Man of the Crowd, it's the opposite, no? This bourgeois guy, it's staring at this bump around the streets, and he's seeking around the guy and looking at the people and making, in a way, like what he did. It's a fresco of the modern times at that moment. No? And at the beginning, I wanted to do something like that. For me, that was amazing. And when the other element appeared for me was the moment when I realized that this confrontation was important for the film about, we can say, modern times and ancient times, and a very precise way to portray a country like Bolivia, that it's really a very complex country where many times, we can say, are coexistent together until today. Even ancient times from indigenous, some places in Bolivia are completely disconnected from this westernized world, and we at the same time now have internet. We have so many, I don't know, screens. We have many things, and the people is like in a living and coexisting in all this complex mix, you know. And for me, it was a good idea to try to make also this fresco of these times in Bolivia with these elements. Oh.
Actually, now that you mentioned this idea of a fresco and the elements, it's impossible not to think as La Paz as another main character. And I'm very curious about this idea of portraying the spaces, the details, the cables, the posters, the walls, and the geography, how we climb there, and the effort in the bodies. And I wanted to hear from you, Kiro, about your idea of presenting La Paz this way in cinema, and also the texture, shooting in super 16 millimeters, if that was the idea from the very beginning, and how did you do it?
Well, I really wanted to have a kind of dialogue and talk about, in a way, about modern times. I mean, the modernity, we can say. And one of the biggest representations of modernity were the symphonies of the city, you know. And for me, it was very coherent to try to do this. At the same time, I've been thinking these years a lot about cinema as a document. You know, I mean, the problem is that I think the relation for cinema for the most major of people, the audience, is that cinema is just entertainment. You know, but I really wanted to really focus in some traces of time through the city, through the walls, through the some corners of the space, specific things that are really, I don't know, I was always curious about this kind of stuff in my city. Like, for example, the cables, like there are a mass of crazy cables going around everywhere. Things that for me show you this kind of traces of time. But at the same time, I think that for me it was very coherent to do some kind of symphony of the city, but made from Bolivia 100 years after actually the symphonies of the city were, you know, famous, we can say, to also try to make a kind of critique, we can say, to the system that is the capitalist system that is, you know, around the cities and sustaining everything. And for me, it was very interesting, and that was something that was decided from the beginning. That is that you have this film that is like focusing in the city, and then you go inside, and suddenly you go inside a character, and you follow him, and suddenly the film also decides to let him out and goes back to the city again. I mean, this kind of movement for me was very interesting to explore in this film. And yeah, I think this could be a kind of critique to the system from Bolivia, and the 60 millimeters fits for me so much to this idea also too, you know, aesthetically, we can say, plastically, and also as a filmmaker, for me was very important to build a film in super 16 millimeters in this time, also as a pedagogical thing for me. You know, I mean, I think that when you shoot in 16 millimeters, you absolutely change your perception of what's the shooting, the precise moment when you are capturing some stuff, you know, and this idea of capturing time, of building with time some kind of huge movement, we can say that was the idea, or the formal idea for this film.
And talking about times that coexist in the film, we also have certain moments of joy for the characters, with musical and choreographical scenes, which are really great, and also are bringing some fantastic elements, especially in the choreography in the market. And I wanted to hear from you about this, but also because it has a certain 80s pop atmosphere. And I'm curious if that was a reference, and how did you build up, and how did you come with this idea?
Well, talking about coexistence, thinking about how it is in my country, it was impossible not to think about the same coexistence of the image, of the image and sound, and the, you know, videos that go around everywhere, and the material, and that we are carrying on in our cell phones, we can say. You know, I mean, we are actually living this moment where this massive, I mean, you know, this presence of videos everywhere. It's like a kind of, I don't know, everything is flooded with videos, with things that are moving. I don't know. It's a kind of crazy madness that now surrounds us with this, and it's putting also this in question, what really cinema is for me. You know, I mean, what's going to be the future of cinema or not? I think it's very related also with what's happening in the cameras that we're having in our pockets. Now, that's something that it is like this, and in this idea of this coexistence, for me was not impossible not to think about a very kind of, let's say, modern and postmodern kind of aesthetics that had to include also these videos, like video clips, maybe even propaganda, sometimes documentary. And for me, it was like a kind of huge challenge to really say, okay, how are we going to sustain this different styles in one piece? That I think that was one of the toughest stuff from this film. But I'm happy with the results, because I think we really managed to do it. And at the same time, the other thing and the element of the dancing scenes, for example, all the 80s music, is because basically in my country, the people love this music so much, exactly like you see. I mean, maybe it's not, I mean, it sounds unbelievable, but the truth is that this is like this. And in fact, now I'm making some investigations, because, what happened in my country is that after Evo Morales, many people that were like indigenous or Creole, we can say, became very rich, and they really built their way of Westernization, is good what I'm saying. Like they built their own ways to, be rich and have these ostentations. And one of the things that is very traditional in my country, it's called preste. This is like a colonial kind of thing that stayed forever in my country. That is like once in a time, I mean, in your life or two or whatever, you can be like a kind of king. And to be this, you are going to organize a 5-day, 4-day party, spending thousands of dollars, inviting to everybody, and you're going to be the king with your family, whatever. And now it's very, very common for this kind of parties to hire this old 80s music bands. In fact, I was investigating, and for example, Modern Talking, that maybe have been for now 4 times in El Alto, in La Paz by now. And there is Fancy, this other guy that maybe Lady of Ice is his biggest hit. And also he have been there 3 times. And you can check this information in YouTube, and it's insane. It's insane because, I mean, there are many indigenous dancing this music, loving this 80s waves, which is very curious too, no?
It is indeed, yeah. It's very curious, and the scenes give a lot of a breath and a lot of light in the film, in terms of there's another world that is also possible, or the fantasy, or the access to these musical elements. And you mentioned the word documentary right now when you were talking, and this is something very present in your work. And I was wondering how close and how it's the idea for you, how much do you document from the life of the characters? And I wanted also to hear a bit about the female characters. Mama Pancha, it's an adorable character, and she brings other elements as well. So I wanted to know how much you work in between this line, or how do you think about it, actually, between this tension of documentary and fiction?
Well, for me, it's very complicated now to talk about what really is or not documentary. I think the cinema in general, we're in this moment because, first of all, we can say that everything is built up, like the whole film, it's fiction, but I reached some things that I wanted, which are this presence of these people that are my friends, because I had the obsession to say, I want to show some behaviors, we can say, or jokes, or ways of being, of moments that are very precise, of the everyday lives, that they are real. For example, Max, it's really, really, really has a huge bond with Mama Pancha in real life. And they always go to this specific corner, and she's selling in the market, and he's appearing, and they have a long chatting conversations about many stuff. And this precise moment he takes the flowers to Mama Pancha. It's something that's not documentary, because we were there with a huge crew. But in the most major of the scenes, I were really expecting the precise moment to shoot. That was a bit, in a way, the job of doing a film like this in 16 millimeters, because I can imagine that in digital, I could put the camera, like, I don't know, 1 hour there, and then in the editing, like, really choose the precise moment. But in this case was different. It was like everybody was really silent, like still expecting this signs, never saying action. Like really, I was hearing also the dialogues between them, and there was the precise moment of catching it. That's why I think, and I say it's like more like a documentary kind of methodology to build a fiction, no? Because in the end, everything is fake. I mean, it's not that Elder have been sick, or Max is not like you see him in the film. It's different in the real life. I mean, I wanted to do that. I never want to put the lives of my friends there. They have some, I mean, there are some references, but it's not about their lives, you know. That's it's a fiction, and I think that's interesting to think, you know. And that's the point of questioning what's documentary and what's not. Nowadays, I think that documentary more and more is more a genre, you know, like a kind of very structured genre that pretends to be documentary in the form that it's built. In a way, that's for me more documentary. This genre never, obviously it's going to be the truth or something, but what I yes believe and what I look for is about these traces of time, because it's not going to be the reality, never, but there are some things of their presence, or of these things around the city that actually are like this, you know. And it's like this mixes of the presence and the buildup of the framing and time and decisions of the cutting and all the construction that you're doing when you're building a film.
Yes, it is clear that it comes that way. And Kiro, you mentioned these people that they turn to be characters in the film, that you mentioned they are my friends, and some of them were there in your previous film. And I was wondering if there's a casting process. How do you find these people? How do you work with them? How was then you mentioned a bit about the direction, like waiting, but maybe it's interesting to hear about the process of you as a director with the actors.
Well, first I want to answer the other question that you told me that I forgot, that is about the women's. Well, I really wanted to portray the behavior and the presence of these women in the market that is so important in the society of my country, and the women, las cholitas, are very strong women that in a way are very, I think Bolivia, it's very matriarchal. I don't know how to say this in English, matriarchal kind of society with a lot of male chauvinism. But in a way, always the woman, and in the Latin America in general, it's like behind everything, sustaining so much everything. And it's crazy because they are sustaining the market, and they are like managing the system of the market. And I wanted to work in this market because it's like a central, huge market in my city that I always went there, even when I was a kid. And for me, it was very, you know, curious to see all the movement, all the exchanges, and all the different kinds of people from social classes, and also from different variety of indigenous communities and stuff, being there and exchanging, you know, exchanging and meeting. For me, that was important. And also this idea of Mama Pancha, it was very important for me. It's still being also from my first picture, that was another old woman too, because in Bolivia we have a lot of the idea of the grand and the godfather and the, I don't know how to say madrina, but
Godmother.
This is godmother. Yeah, the idea of the godmother, it's a so important character for people. They're like, you have your godmother, and she's gonna give you some advices, some things, and that's why and Mama Pancha, she is so tender and nice. It was really nice to work with she. And about casting, well, for me it's a very curious thing, like sharing the film nowadays. Someone told me like, oh, now you're doing social work, you know, like, wow. I never thought about that. But what I'm doing is building films with friends that I really love very much, that they became my friends like so many years ago. And it's very tough because, for example, I wanted to build and appoint a film for Max, and he was very happy with the idea, and we were happy with that. But then after after I developed the idea conceptually, when we started to work, Max really wasn't able to be in a film at all. Like for him to be in a shooting was a nightmare. It was a completely insane nightmare because he was living outside the system, like, I don't know, 25 years, and suddenly we were shooting, and he was like, I don't want to do this, man. I don't want to do this. But it was very tough because I built everything around him, and suddenly I discovered that he was not going to do it. And suddenly he was saying, like, I hate this, but I know we have to continue. I mean, it was completely complicated in that fact. And at the same time, I started to realize that I had to change the story. That was the second change that I made, because this film had been shooted in two parts, and it was the first part. And the first script was more like Max, the center of the story, telling and surrounded by many stories. And one of the stories was this illness story with Elder. I mean, it was already there, but was not like so protagonist. And because of this situation, I really had to change everything and reformulate everything. And I'm telling you this because how I was like compromised to him and to the idea of making films with him, because he wanted, but he wasn't able to do this. And even as his behavior too, because one of the reasons that I really wanted to work with him is because how he really is in the real life. In the real life, he's like a kind of Charlotte of the real life, we can say, like a Chaplin. It's amazing how he is, but that was not possible to be filmed, I realized after. And that was very, very crazy, And the same thing happened to me with many of the characters in the movie. Always when I make films, the people that knows me and love to be part of the shooting know that it's going to be a kind of, I don't know, crazy adventure, like going back to the childhood in a way. It's weird because we went to live to my house. I have a very, very big house, a very old house that was for my grandmother. And we're living with the miners. Max stayed 1 year in my house living there. And something happened in this kind of exchange. And that's something that I really love about cinema too. For me, I'm doing films to also have these experiences that for me and the crew are really actually amazingly important. And that's how I basically built not the characters, but the people who's gonna to be there. Like, it's something more organic that hasn't nothing to do with the casting, that we're casting the people or stuff. It's more complicated than that, but it's because what I'm looking inside of the shooting and related to this encounters.
And Kiro, I wanted to ask you about the sound work, because you managed to put us in La Paz. We seem to be there. We are there, and mostly this has to do with the sounds. Also, when we are in the rural space next to La Paz. So I wanted to hear, how did you conceive, how was your idea of constructing this sound as part of, it's very immersive experience, the film actually.
Well, my first work in cinema was the sound design. I was working and I studied in Buenos Aires, and I made, I've been working like for some years in sound design for the university. And after I made some design for some movies. And I also come from musical backgrounds. I wanted to also to be a musician. I studied a lot of years in the conservatory, but I never did that because I considered that I was not good. But I really, care so much about the sound, because basically the sound is 50% of what you're seeing. It's totally like this. And at the same time, it was a symphony of the city. And obviously for a symphony, we have to work with the sounds of the city. What I wanted to do in the design, it's first to build a kind of chaos that it's gonna be from the sounds of the city, of my city, that in a moment are going to suddenly transform into music, and then into the sounds of the city again. And there is a lot of this kind of moments in the film. And I worked the music from the film with Miguel Llanque, that is a very nice and great Bolivian composer that really catch me the idea of, because I had this sound. And the other part of the sound is that I work with Merstenina and some other guys from Argentina that we have been working for a long time. And that's another good thing, because when you know the people, I mean, I have a big team. In fact, I have a big team. I think maybe bigger team in sound than in photography, maybe, I don't know. Because for me, it's so important to do this that takes a long time, no? Takes a really long time. The same was in my first feature. And in my first feature, I had the worst stuff scenario because I really went to the shooting with a guy that didn't know how to record, and everything was really bad. And we had to reconstruct the whole sound from zero. No? In this case was not like this, but I really used a lot of surround, for example. No? And this is supposedly breaking the rules so much, because for the sound designers, this is not allowed, supposedly, you know. And I had a lot of arguments with some people because they were saying, no, this is going to destroy the film or not. But for me, it's perfect how it works, because it was part of the idea. No?
And Kiro, I'm very curious about the ending, when all the whole film, the whole images come together and seem to be like everything was inside Elder, and it's very powerful. It's has many connotations and possible interpretations, but actually I wanted to hear from you about this moment when the character seems to be almost passing away, and he returns, and actually there are many questions about this possible return to life. How is it for you? And what about that editing of images?
Well, this part is one of the things that I really wanted to do from the beginning. I already made some kind of scenes like this in my other films, but not so, I mean, not so extreme like this, no? I mean, I always wanted to make something like, I don't know, Vertop, or with, let's say, Abel Gans or Rudman, and also related to the process of markets. You know? I think it's very precise, and I thought that this film, in the end, thinking the other day, is very symbolic. It's like a huge symbol, I think, what it's built in the end, because it's like this worker, it's sick, and he's carrying inside him the whole system, we can say, but also his life, you know, and all the images of his life. And you can say this is a kind of maybe kind of Alep, that everything it's inside this vision that maybe Max is having, or something like that. And you can tell that first is the mine, then is the machines, then is the mineral, and after the mineral you have the money and the exchange and the market and the people of the city. I mean, it's a kind of chaos. But yes, this was something that was really, really prepared from the beginning. And at the same time, I don't know, taking him back, and after we had another chat with you for Venice, and I saw that, yes, this ending is very, very strong in a way that it's true. It's better to be alive or no in a situation like this. No, I mean, where you don't have opportunities. And I think I've been thinking all this time about to build a film that is not like giving you, you know, too much good stuff about happiness or joy in life, or why to do a film about the working class that is suffering. But I really, really understood that it's very important to do this, because actually the people is forgetting about this. I mean, the people is wanting just to have films as entertainment to forget their lives and the things that are going on around. And for me, that's negative. That's negative, because the films should bring you some truths through cinema. And the truth, for example, now here where I am now, or in La Paz, or in New York, wherever, the workers are sustaining the system, and that's how it is. I mean, it's not a kind of theory of something like that. They are actually doing it. And when I'm talking about workers, I'm talking even about us, you know, we're workers too, but there are two types of workers. Are workers like you are not, I mean, we're more like cerebral workers, but they are these workers that they are sacrificing their bodies with work. And this thing is something that needs to be, you know, how can you say, they need to be tributes to these people, you know, like we have to be conscious about it and thank them because we're living this kind of world that we are now because of them. It's precisely like this. Even the people in the kitchens, even the people that are, I don't know, cleaning the trash in the streets. It's all about the system and all about who are the guys and women that are sustaining it. In the end, for me, that's the idea of the film, no?
Yes, it is, and it is really bringing that truth, as you mentioned it, and this strong critic to this capitalist system as it is now. And we really want to thank you for the film because you managed to put it also, as I said before, in high cinematic terms. Congratulations again, Kiro, and thanks for sharing the film with us, and thanks for being here at New York Film Festival. Next time we hope in person, and congratulations and thank you very, very much again.
Thank you very much, Violeta, and thank you to all of you that are stayed. I don't know if you're still there or not, but thank you so much to the New York Film Festival. And yes, actually, I hope to be there someday. Take care. Thank you.